Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Online Warriors podcast. Swinging around to not the end of the September. I think there's another September episode after this, but we have a September episode in which we are going to Video Game Town, a town that we have stayed in many times, and we will be there again. I'm Illeagle 86. I am joined as ever by my good friends Techtic and Nerdbomber.
Hello.
Techtic, Nintendo or Sony?
No, I'm not going to play this game. Don't think. The answer is no. There's different game consoles for different moods, so no.
So Nerdbomber, should I even bother asking you? Or are you going to say the same thing?
From these two showcases, I think my interests more aligned with Sony's in this case, but I think both brought a lot to the table. And in terms of the consoles themselves, actually, I'm going to be honest with y'all, I don't use the Switch as much as my Xbox and PlayStation. There, I said it.
Which means I use the Switch more than my Xbox and PlayStation.
We disagreed in almost every way in that statement that you just made, Nerdbomber. We'll dive into it. So this week we are covering the State of Play from Sony that took place last week, and also the Nintendo Direct that took place last week. Kind of competing game events, one of which was significantly more jam-packed than the other. Not that makes it better, but Nintendo had quite a bit more to roll out. So we're going to cover that in the first half of the episode and get to State of Play later, and also get to some kind of ancillary PSVR news that we got around the same time. But the Switch versus console thing, it's very interesting, and I'm sure I've talked about this before, especially because recently I've been playing more of the Switch. The Switch, it's the reason I wanted it. I bought it during the pandemic, and it was a great purchase. It's so pick-upable.
Well, it's very portable compared to the PlayStation 5, like in terms of poundage, I definitely agree. The Switch is more pick-upable. This was a joke. This was a joke.
Yeah, you definitely pick it up easier, that's for sure. But what I mean is because Sony has gone out of their way and like to their credit, they've done a great job of like making it easier. When I would turn on my PS4, it was like from turn on to actually playing a game, it was a good 5 minutes or something that I could have spent gaming. And with the solid state drive and all the things they did with the PS5, they've really cut that time down. Somehow it's still too much sometimes. Like it's still just like the Switch, it's just, man, you pick it up and you're playing almost instantly. And I don't know, to me, again, right now, it's just right now, and like the mood I'm in, I guess, or the summer to fall vibe has me just really in that space. But yeah, I mean, the PS5 obviously has like better graphics. Let's just call it what it is. We'll kind of roll into the Nintendo Direct here because there is a lot to cover. We should probably start at the end. I don't want to like try to organize this in like biggest announcements, but obviously there was one announcement that was, dwarfed every single other announcement that happened. And that of course I'm referring to The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, formerly known as The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2. I believe this was the video in the reveal that gave it a title, gave it a release date of May the 12th, 2023. And we got a trailer that was very generic, but also that people are probably going to be they're probably trying to dissect it right now. I don't, my hands are not at all enough in like the Zelda lore to understand any of what was going on with these, like, they weren't hieroglyphs, but you know what I'm talking about. The stuff in the stones. Am I supposed to take anything away from that? I guess I'll turn it over to you guys, because you guys have both played Breath of the Wild, as far as I recall.
So I played it for maybe like 2 hours. I actually really struggled with Breath of the Wild. I feel like I should probably go and revisit it because I didn't necessarily give it a fair shake. I am probably going to be the person who is like the only person to say this. I understand why people are very excited about this trailer and announcement, and I'm very excited for them to be excited for this. But I didn't jive with Breath of the Wild. I think it was the destructive weaponry. I hate that game mechanic. It stresses me out. I don't end up using the best weapons because I don't want it to break on me. And that aspect of the game alone was enough to like put me off of Breath of the Wild in general. And I feel like I just need to go back and revisit it with a fresh perspective and maybe not get so hung up on that. But I am not stoked for this game because I never played the first one.
So
Techtic,
as far as the hieroglyphs go, I mean, right off the bat, it basically teased you saying, hey, this is Zelda, because you recognize a lot of the familiar bad guys and things like that. That was my major takeaway. This looks breathtaking, just like the first one does, but I'm ashamed to say that I myself haven't played it yet. I'm going to play it, and the game mechanic does not scare me. It's something that's common in quite a lot of different games, and you learn to overcome. But yeah, this looks like something to get excited for, especially those that actually played and completed the first one.
For those that do not know, and the reason I passed the buck so quickly, I tried playing Ocarina of Time once for like an hour, and I was like, this sucks, and I stopped. And I know that makes me a terrible person. So just save your tweets, all right? I know they're going to be hurled my way anyways, but...
I liked the old school Zelda, the top-down 2D pixel. That was my absolute favorite. I just feel intimidated by this. Even when we played, there was so much calamity in that game. Even when we played Hyrule Warriors, there was it didn't have the same mechanic that I loved, and even though it's nicer graphics, it just doesn't resonate with me. So I'm hoping that that's just this weird bastard stepchild, and when I play Breath of the Wild, I'll enjoy it much more.
Yeah, this is, I mean, Tears of the Kingdom, obviously an enormous deal. Also, obviously, we don't really know anything yet. Like, I feel like if I had seen this footage and someone said this is footage from Breath of the Wild, I'd have been like, yeah. Like, there's not much particularly different or new about what we've seen, so it's hard to kind of get into the nitty-gritty of what it's going to bring to the table. I do want us to, all three of us, kind of put our heads together, and so we have Breath of the Wild, we have Tears of the Kingdom. What is the next title going to be? Because it's clearly blank of the blank, and it's something like vaguely evocative of like something you do, like you cry.
It's Sounds of the Sky.
Sounds of the Summer.
No, Sounds of the
Sounds
Sky.
of the Sky is honestly way better. I would say Song of the Sky. Although, isn't there already a Legend of Zelda Song of Somethings or something or other? Am I making that up?
I like Song of the Sky.
We had Wind Waker.
Song of the Sky.
Song of the Sky is pretty good. But they already came out with Windward Sky. That one was definitely one. I think
Song of the Mountains. Yes. That's it.
Yeah. Mountain is definitely, yeah. So you heard it here first. We're breaking the news to everyone. The Legend of Zelda Song of the Mountain, or Mountains, will be coming after Tears of the Kingdom. So be on the lookout for that. Kind of trying to stay, so I'm just going to start going here. Because I'm also going to say, right out of the gate, I wasn't really engaged by this showcase at all. There was only one thing. And in fact, why don't I go to that thing now? I'm going to say one thing that I thought was good and that I was into, and then I'll turn it over to you guys. We can kind of hop around. There were a lot of new games that were announced. There were a lot of like DLCs that were announced, and then they did the thing that excited me, and they said we're going to be adding some new Nintendo 64 games coming either in 2022 or 2023, and this was a veritable who's who of like the most banger N64 games that I remember. Starting with Mario Party 1.
You mean Pokemon
Stadium?
The
best Mario Party. Pokemon Stadium. Well, that's the thing. Like, Pokemon Stadium is worth mentioning because watching the footage that they had of Pokemon Stadium, I was like, I remember this. I remember enjoying this, and I don't even like Pokemon. Like, very publicly, I'm not into Pokemon. But
because that was like a fighting game. It was like a turn-based fighting game.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but that's all Pokemon is. Well, you just described all of Pokemon. But different
though.
I suppose. I mean, I there's definitely nostalgia at play.
Did you see the little screwball icon that said first player when GoldenEye came on? Or was I just having a
I might have
fever
missed
dream?
that.
It was there, but I don't think that's Metroid specific. But I don't know enough about that franchise.
Someone out there, go ahead and rewatch it and tell me what that screwball icon is from.
GoldenEye was actually one that I know that was like one of the most iconic N64 games. I never played that one. Potentially because I wasn't allowed to, but I honestly don't remember. I will play it now. The other one I was really, really excited about, though.
Excited by?
And I don't know, I don't even know. It would be reasonable for me to be excited about that one because the one I was excited for was 1080 snowboarding, which I don't know if 1080 was even that big of a deal or that popular of a game. But I think that was like one of the first games we got for the N64. It was like in that early era, and it's the freaking greatest. It's just, there's so much memory. Like I don't want to like gloss over the fact that of all of these new game announcements for like Nintendo Switch games, this was the thing that excited me the most by far about the Switch showcase, the Nintendo Direct, whatever you want to call it. I think that may just be that a lot of stuff in this showcase was directed very much away from my typical video gaming interests. There was like a billion Square Enix games. I don't know if you guys mentioned that. They were all Square Enix games that were like, I don't know, just not my cup of tea. So that was kind of my big thing. Do either of you guys have a big thing that you want to make specific mention of that you thought looked good?
I think one of the things that I did want to kind of note was that there seemed like there were a lot of like farming simulators. I mean, there was
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Yeah, there was like Story of Seasons, A Wonderful Life, which was originally a GameCube game, I believe, but they're basically remaking that and bringing that back to the Nintendo Switch. There were I feel like a ton. We saw another look at Harvestella, which is like a farming sim, but also with some RPG elements.
It felt like they kept trying to sell me on having a wife, like in every game. They're like, and you can have a wife. And I was like, wild.
And then I think the one that, so I like the genre of games, but I think the one that I was most excited about was Fae Farm. And the thing that kind of sold me on it the most was that there was Animal Crossing elements, but it also looked like there was some sort of like action RPG activities going on, sort of like Harvestella, but a little bit lighter and more in that like kiddie Animal Crossing realm. But also it has multiplayer, and I'm going to drag Techtic into this game with me because we both played. Yes, I will, because we both played Animal Crossing, and you dragged me into Animal Crossing for the first time ever. I didn't even think I'd like that game. And so I'm going to drag you into this because this kind of looks like Animal Crossing.
But I say you won't because you're going to be busy playing the other game that was the game that I was most excited about from this whole showcase.
What was that?
Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe.
Yeah, I figured you were going to bring this one up. When I saw Kirby, I was like,
this was Game Boy Color or Game Boy SP Kirby style with your friends. Y'all could be Kirby. None of this silly tertiary character co-op. This is full on Kirby action co-op. This is what I wanted to introduce you to Kirby with. Not Kirby in the Forgotten Land. This one.
Is this a remake? Like, I've never done a whole lot of Kirby gaming. I'm going to be honest there. I've dabbled in Kirby, but I haven't like sat down and actually played a Kirby game.
This is a remake, but with co-op, but with friends.
Okay.
And it's deluxe. Did you hear about the deluxeness of it?
It's got a big old D. Yeah. Deluxe.
There were a few other games. Like, there were a lot of like the JRPG things. And, you know, there was the Bayonetta 3 trailer and the new trailer for Fire Emblem, which Fire Emblem Engage was announced. I haven't played any of the Fire Emblem games. I didn't even realize. See, I feel like people listening to this who are big Nintendo fans are probably like gritting their teeth because they hate us right now. But like, I have played Smash Brothers and didn't realize where Marth came from. And now I know because Techtic was like, oh, there's Marth.
Well, then like the first 5 seconds, I was like, oh, is this Fire Emblem? And she looks over to me. She goes, you played Fire Emblem? And I'm like, that's where Marth comes from. She goes, Marth's in Smash.
Yeah, I clocked it as Fire Emblem right away.
I didn't. And something about this Fire Emblem seems a little bit more engaging than the last entry into the series, which I know everybody was raving about, but I just never got into. But like, were there always dragons in Fire Emblem? Because the dragons pulled me in. So maybe I might give this a shot just because there's dragons. And I'm like in a dragon vibe right now.
And it's more engaging because it's called Fire Emblem Engage. That's like the whole purpose.
Fair.
They want you to be engaged. I think everything you said is right, and I'm glad you, because I meant to mention and I had just forgotten. There's so much farming going on in this. I was like, should I live off the land? And like you were saying, Techtic, it's like, geez, like every time I looked up at the screen, it's like someone was like, you know, plucking a radish out of the soil or whatever the generic farming thing is. Which again, not really my cup of tea, but it's clearly going on right now, as well as all the JRPGs.
I do have to ask you guys a question. So with a lot of the JRPGs, so like Bayonetta 3, Raincode, I thought the concept of that looked kind of interesting. Like, it seemed like more of a detective sort of thing. But with a lot of
I was
these,
into
like,
Raincode. I was going to bring Raincode up
like,
because I think Raincode is interesting.
The aesthetic and the story seemed really interesting. But for a lot of these games that seem like they should have like high detail graphics and everything like that, like Bayonetta 3, Raincode, like the textures and everything and like just the general design of the game seemed like it wanted to be a higher graphic capability game than what the Switch could handle. I don't know if that was just me, but like I couldn't help but feeling like the Switch's graphics are starting to show their age a little bit. Was that just me? Like when you don't have high cartoony style stuff, it doesn't look great.
I think that's certainly true. And like, I don't know. I think these developers may be trusting in the fact that like Switch owners know that. As a Switch owner, I know that when I pick up the Switch to play a game, I'm not getting the graphics that maybe I want, but also I'm not getting the graphics that you can get elsewhere.
And here's the other thing. Most of the time for me, I play it on the small screen. I don't play it on my television. So I'm not really noticing the high def loss. So it doesn't really impact me.
That's fair. I do distinctly remember when I played Astral Chain, I kind of ping-ponged between playing that on the big screen and playing that in handheld mode. And I remember when I started on the big screen, I was like, this doesn't look as good as I want it to. But then I think you were playing on the PlayStation or something, Techtic. So I went into handheld mode for the majority of the game as I was playing it. And that wasn't even a thought once it got on that small screen.
This kind of a segue into one of the other games I wanted to mention that maybe the thing I was most excited about besides the N64 stuff, and there's a trend here, Radiant Silvergun. I was like, this looks super fun. And like, I think I enjoy, especially with this console, because I know how I'm going to play it, which is typically going to be handheld. Like Radiant Silvergun is not remotely trying to have any graphics. It's focusing on the gameplay. It's focusing on this kind of old school shoot 'em up kind of thing that like, I think that's great. I mean, obviously I don't want it to cost very much, but like, I think that's a great place for, development to be happening with these with the Switch is like, just have something that is going to focus on the gameplay and know that its users, they're not going to care about graphics because they'll see the trailer and say, this game is not about graphics, but neither am I. So they're not trying to please people who are wanting that out of the Switch. Because like you said, the Switch just isn't going to give that to people. Just go all the way to like arcade style. I think that's tends to be an okay route. Moving along, I guess. And I'm glad you mentioned Raincode too, because I thought Raincode was really interesting. I don't know if it's one that I would buy necessarily, but it stuck out as different to me.
If you see it on like Super Sale or something eventually, it feels like a game that I would pick up.
Yeah, exactly. There were a couple things that were announced, at least a couple things that were like, this game was previously out elsewhere and it's now coming to the Switch. And one that I want to make mention of that we've all played that is very good, that has like won awards and everything. Like I feel like It Takes Two, it's the most Switch game ever to me. Like it belongs on the Switch. It would have made more sense to me, honestly, if that had come out on the Switch first before it came out everywhere else, because it feels so much more like a Switch game to me than like a PS4 game. To me, that's a total smash, home run, match made in heaven situation. So I just wanted to kind of make mention of that.
And also Pikmin. There's a new Pikmin game. And have you guys ever played Pikmin?
Yes.
Okay. Can you explain what it is?
I don't get it.
It's basically you have to collect and grow these little Pikmin, and depending on the color and the quantity, it can help you progress into the next level. So you need, let's say, 10 red Pikmin to open up the next passageway, and then you'd keep progressing, and then you have to get back to your ship before nightfall, or else all of your things will get eaten. And it's just this like timing management progression game that's very stressful.
One of the like OG farming sims then, kind of?
I don't want to call it a farming simulator.
It's in that realm, but it is a little different from what I can tell.
It's almost more like one of those conquering map games, really.
Like a real-time strategy sort of thing?
Yeah, it's more akin to that. It's neat. I don't know how they've been able to milk 3 additional installments out of it.
And a mobile game that was
people
announced.
But yeah, people
go crazy for Pikmin. I know a couple people who are like really, really into it. I don't get it. Again, I don't get it to the extent that Nerdbomber, I'm glad you asked that question, because if you hadn't, I was going to ask it. I just like don't even know what the game is. But there's a 4th one coming out, so it has found its
a very simple concept,
ways.
But I just, like I said, it to me it didn't seem like it was repeatable. I think it was like this neat novel thing, and then you do one and done and call it a day.
Other things, there's two others that I want to make quick mention of, and then I'll turn it over to you guys for more if you want. Lego Bricktales. Yes, I love Lego. I feel like that's all I need to say about this. Bring that to me. Again, perfect Switch experience. Just wanted to gloss over that. And then also another one that I wanted to mention was Sifu, which I know we've talked about. Sifu is out elsewhere, is it not?
Yeah, that was originally a PlayStation exclusive. I think that came out over the summer for PlayStation. And so I'm interested to see it make the jump over to Nintendo.
See, it's another one that I think it just belongs here. I think it makes sense. I do want to try it. I don't have a whole lot of Kung Fu game experience, and also like in my experience with Everspace and hopefully soon Returnal, like I don't know if Returnal is a roguelite, but like roguelike, like they kind of scare me a little bit. They're very punishing. Like the roguelike experience is just like, hey, if you think you're not gonna like die going through this game, get ready because you're gonna die many times. And it's just like a totally different play style. So I'm curious what that looks like in the context of a Kung Fu game. So I don't know if it's the best Kung Fu entry point for me, but I'm intrigued. So yeah, those are kind of my high points. Do you guys have other ones in this showcase that you're wanting to make mention of?
One I want to mention that wasn't mentioned yet, and because you mentioned the roguelite, I want to mention Endless Dungeon. That one, the plot looked really good. The fighting looked good. The animation looked cool. But the second they mentioned roguelite, I was just incredibly terrified and did not want to invest in it. I wish they would like give an option for that. Like, hey, you can have it like this, or you can just like die and it's not punishing. Cool, thanks. Enjoy.
You know,
Right. Give me some checkpoints.
I always thought that I would hate those type of games, and then Hades, and I know this isn't part of the showcase or anything, the Nintendo Direct, but like Hades kind of opened and broadened my horizons a little bit because that was so good, and I understood from Hades how that formula can be really addicting, and there's like strategy involved to it, and it's not always punishing, especially if it's done right. But I think it is really heavily dependent on being done right, because after Hades, I did try, I don't even remember what it was. I think it might have been Neon Abyss, and I got very frustrated very quickly, losing all of my progress.
Well,
so
if you like those kind of games, and you're a trio of 3 because you can play with two other friends, online warriors, then maybe you should try it out.
Got something stuck in your throat there. Yeah, roguelike, it's I have to be in the right mood for them. Like Everspace, and I don't know that Everspace, because that's my roguelike kind of touch point. I don't know if it's designed to be played this way, but I've kind of played that game in short bursts for like a week or 2 at a time, and then I'm like, man, it's frustrating, and I put it down and walk away. And like the way roguelikes are, you come back to it and it's going to be exactly the same as it was, so it's like you may kind of adapt to the game and really find yourself within the game, like getting better at certain parts of it if you do it in a short span of time. And you might lose that if you walk away from it. But at the same time, I feel like the core experience is the same. So I've kind of done that with Everspace. I don't know if that would work with other roguelikes, just like, play Sifu like crazy, or play Endless Dungeon like crazy for like, a week and then put it down, because it just bothers me dying that much. But I'm open to it. I want to like roguelikes more than I do, I think.
yeah, I'm going to be interested to see what you do with Returnal, because that was a main reason why I avoided that game.
And Returnal, and again, I know not part of this showcase, but we're talking fully about roguelikes now. Like, Returnal has come down significantly. I would say it's come down significantly enough in price for me to at least consider making the investment. But I'm scared. Like, at this point, the reason I have not bought it yet is definitely just like, I'm worried I'm going to buy it and not like it. And I'm already like holding it in high esteem, and I don't want to ruin that feeling for myself, if that makes sense. I am definitely going to try it at some point. I'm just like, I'm currently trying to work through my reticence towards the things we've heard about it. And I know we talked about it on the podcast, how like you can't stop you can't like save during a playthrough or something. Like, it just like, you just got to go through it. And that itself is a big commitment. So we'll see what the future for me in roguelikes looks like. But in the meantime, are there other games here that we want to touch on before heading to break and heading into our discussion of the state of play?
I mean, other than getting teased by Disney Speedstorm again with no firm release date, again, it still looks fun, but like...
Didn't we talk about this last week or
Yeah.
the week before?
Yeah.
It was at D23.
They keep
That's
rolling out little teasers, but no concrete release date. And like, what the heck? I'll just...
They're teasing you.
Yeah, I'll just have to deal with that on my own time. But there is like 2 of the big ones that I don't know if I have a ton of interest in, but I know they're kind of a big deal. Octopath Traveler 2, the sequel. I know the first game did really well. I do really like the like 2D, 3D art style, but it's very, I think, like dialogue story heavy. And I think it's a long game that I just don't have time to invest in these days.
Yep.
But I'm sure people who are fans of that franchise are also excited. And then Fatal Frame, I know a lot of people were clamoring for that remake. It was a Wii game. They're remaking it. It's coming to Nintendo Switch. And I just gotta ask, again, I know it's spooky season, but who is playing these spooky games? Like, who has the wherewithal to sit through these games? Because, like, the little trailer looked creepy, and I was just like, I don't think this game is for me ever. Who plays these?
Yeah, I mean...
Genuinely want to know.
Me, maybe. I think scary games are cool. You know this about me. I'm not like gonna go out. I'm not like necessarily gonna go out and buy this game. I'm just like I understand.
I think spookiness has its place, so don't generally hate on it, because when we get to the PlayStation section, we're gonna talk about some of that.
That we are. So we will get to the PlayStation section after we take a break. I mean, yeah, there's other things in Nintendo Direct that I'm sure there's games here and DLCs that we did not even mention, because there's just so much content. What did we miss? Let us know. At Online Warriors 1, at OW86 is my handle. We have at OW Nerdbomber and at OW Techtic. And yeah, let us know what you liked, what you didn't like, what we sucked saying, I don't know. We're going to head to a break now and talk about the Sony State of Play when we come back. But before we do, I would be remiss if I did not shout out our fantastic Patreon producer, Mr. Steven Keller. Steven was on the show with us a couple weeks ago. He supports us at the night level. As a result, he gets that occasional guest segment on the show. He also gets access to the monthly secret segment and vlog, of course. He gets this producer shout out and weekly input into the game segment. You want to be like Steven, you want to be a knight, you want to hold a sword. As dangerous as it is, it feels kind of cool. You could also be a squire, still gets to hold the sword. I think the squire hands the sword to the knight. So the knight can actually swing it around. They get access to the monthly secret segment and vlog, and there's also a page. I'll be honest, I have no idea what a page does, but I know they are vitally important. They get access to the monthly secret segment. So for details on any and all of those levels of support, you can head over to patreon.com/onlinewarriorspodcast. Get the details there. Say hi to us. Say hi to Steven. Consider helping us out with keeping these mics on and keeping the podcast coming your way. So yeah, thanks to Steven. Thanks to all our subscribers. We'll take a short break now. We'll come back and we'll talk about the state of play. Our next partner has a product I use literally every day. I started taking AG1 because we heard them advertised on other shows, and quite frankly, I wanted to see what all the hype was about, and let me tell you, the hype was real. So what is this stuff? With one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging, all the things. It's quick and easy for me to toss back in the morning as I'm getting ready for work. One scoop into a glass of water helps me wake up even on tired mornings, and I know my gut and immune system will be prepped for the day. And I know what you're thinking, green drink, blech. But Athletic Greens green drink actually tastes really good. The best part is that I get all my supplements in for way cheaper than taking individual supplements themselves. It costs less than $3 a day, so you're investing in your health for cheaper than a cup of coffee. It's also a trusted product. Athletic Greens has over 7,000 five-star reviews and comes recommended by professional athletes and leading health experts alike. And for every purchase, you're helping to feed kids. Athletic Greens donates to organizations helping to get nutritious food to kids in need, including No Kid Hungry here in the U.S. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/emerging. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/emerging to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Thanks to Athletic Greens for helping to sponsor the show, and now we'll get back to the episode. All right, the PlayStation State of Play happened last week. This was I don't want to say significantly, but it was a pretty significantly shorter 20 minutes, basically, of a handful of reveals for PlayStation 5, some PSVR 2 content, also some PlayStation 4 content, I guess. Here, the headliner is definitely God of War. Now, I know, Nerdbomber, I think you're my God of War lady. You know what's going on with the God of War. I will say, this trailer, I know I haven't played a single God of War game. I have little connection to this franchise. Of the 2 showcases, this was probably the best trailer. It is the most well put together. I think it was, and I think we talked about this before, but with respect to these showcases, there's something to be said about mixing cinematics with gameplay footage effectively and giving audiences both. And this trailer did that in spades. In particular, I actually thought the gameplay segments were significantly more impressive than the cinematics. But I'll turn it over to you, Nerdbomber. I have a feeling you're excited about this one, but if you're not, let us know why.
I am very stoked. So first of all, do you own God of War? Not the OG one, the one that came out several years ago. Okay, I know every time I tell you to play a game, you're like, no.
I'll never do it.
But
yeah.
Hey, Techtic, can you tell him to play this game?
No, I don't play it.
Oh my gosh. This is a game that you would be able to complete in 12 hours, and the storytelling is phenomenal. The lore is fantastic. You bought me a lore book. It's amazing.
I did. That's true. As a gift.
Yeah, the gameplay is really fun, and even if you don't think you would enjoy that type of gameplay, because I didn't necessarily think I would either, it ended up being really fun. There's a lot of puzzle solving involved. I think that would be right up your alley. I think you would really like it. there's a reason it won so many like GOTYs. I think you got to play it. And then you can play this game because this looks like a continuation of more awesome with a continuation of a really good, emotional, heartfelt story that was really well told in the first game. And I trust Sony Santa Monica to continue that amazing storytelling into the sequel. It's just, I'm so stoked for this. It looks so good. I can't gush about this enough. I feel like I don't typically pre-order games, and I've been a little stingy, especially since, I've gotten Game Pass and stuff like that, what games I'm going to pre-order. This is coming out in November, and I'm gonna be playing this. It just looks so good. It really does.
Look, I'm open to it. The most compelling thing you said, the most enticing thing you said was 12 hours.
Yeah, it's a very short game. Like, it's very linear. There are elements where you can kind of like go off in a boat and explore, but you don't have to. And it's just, you can crank this out in 12 hours. And I know you love story-driven games, very like cinematic, amazing storytelling, just from how you really enjoyed The Last of Us. This would be right up your alley. I'm telling you. And I know you don't take my recommendations seriously most of the time, but man, this is like, this is it. This is good stuff.
It's not that I don't take them seriously. I take them very seriously. I just don't play them. Again, I'm definitely open to it. The subject matter and the premise and the atmosphere, I'm a little bit indifferent to. That's another challenge that I have to work through myself. But again, I think the gameplay looked great. I think visually it was where it should have been. Like these were fully next gen graphics.
I think
so. Definitely into that.
Not to turn this segment into like me convincing you to play God of War, but you say that the setting and stuff isn't up your alley. But from how much you were saying that you enjoyed Lord of the Rings, I would say, like, I know this is about gods and stuff, but this is a very high fantasy take on the ancient gods. The way that this God of War iteration is being played out feels a lot more like Lord of the Ringsy high fantasy. So I think you would be surprised.
The new show is incredible, by the way. It's neither here nor there. I might talk about it later, but in case I don't, it's amazing. I want to tell a story very briefly. One time, Techtic and me got in a physical fist fight. We fought each other, and it was both our shirts were off. It was raining, and the trailer for Tekken 8 is exactly what it looked like. This is me and Techtic were fighting. I don't play Tekken. Let me start by saying that. I don't really play many fighting games. This was incredibly impressive. Like, I remember when Mortal Kombat came out on the Xbox 360 and how big of a deal that was, because it was like, it's Mortal Kombat, but the graphics are really good, and they found a way to get that to heighten the gameplay. You would think like fighting games, it's like the gameplay can't really be affected too much by graphics. This, like, a lot of this was cinematic, but a lot of it, I think, maybe not a lot of it, but a good chunk of it was gameplay, and I was like, I want to play this.
It was seamless between the cinematic and the gameplay elements.
Yes, definitely. The rain in particular was an amazing choice because it made everything look super cool and also very graphically impressive. Techtic, you're a fighting game guy, as I recall, and I could be wrong, I guess, but were you picking up what this trailer was putting down? I guess that's a very basic question.
I did enjoy this trailer, and I actually looked right at Nerdbomber and said, you never want to play fighting games with me.
I suck at them.
They just hit different than other types of games.
Didn't we decide it's because you're too good at it? Because we talked about Smash Brothers, and Nerdbomber's like, I don't want to play Smash Brothers, and you were like, I love it, and we decided that she doesn't want to play it because you're too good at it. That might have been something I dreamed, but some of our super fans can go back and pull an episode and timestamp for me of when that happened. Yeah, this looked great.
The good part about fighting games, and even this game, just in general, if you're not getting into them, they're sort of like, they're very story driven. There's a lot of cutscenes and a lot of story, so you sit back and you really enjoy just a cinema, and then you get the occasional ready, fight, and then you do your thing, and then the story continues, and it's just they're a whole nother genre, and I just think they're fantastic. They have their
I guess, like, I question that. I don't want to question you, but like, how involved? I can see characters having backstories that are fleshed out through their signature moves or something, but like, how can there be that deep of a story to a game where the principal mechanic and the principal thing you're doing is this? Like, I can see it being very fun. Don't get me wrong. I can see it being worth the time you take to play it. But like, I guess I don't see fighting games at large as like any sort of story experience at all. But maybe that's because of how
I'm going to recommend one to you that Nerdbomber played and as someone who doesn't like fighting games, played through this and thoroughly enjoyed it because of the story element. I want you to play the Injustice games.
Yeah, that was actually pretty good.
These are the DC I'm familiar.
Play the Injustice games, and that's basically how all fighting games do it. And then you'll finally understand why they have their place and why they're so cherished.
Let's talk about VR for a second. And this has to be a multifaceted discussion because there were a couple of PSVR 2 games that were shown. And also, I can't remember if it was before this event or directly after, it was announced that PSVR 1 games will not be supported on PSVR 2, which is upsetting.
I feel like we need to
I find that
first.
upsetting. Okay, well, why
It wouldn't
don't we?
have been upsetting if they had said that all along. But originally, it was clouded with, it'll be just this or that. You could do whatever. And so everyone was just happy with it. And now this.
Like, it flies in the face of the trends that we've been seeing. So it used to be that, you would go into a new console generation and you couldn't play your old games anymore. But like everything became backward compatible. And I don't understand why a technologically less demanding game would not be able to work on the VR2. Like, I understand that there's different methods of tracking between the VR and the VR2. They have different controllers and whatnot. But I feel like it can't be that hard to make like a generic overarching like map this tracking method to this button on the VR2 controller. You know what I mean? I feel like it can't be that hard to do. And that is really kind of upsetting because I feel like there is a pretty big PlayStation VR 1 library that most of us have amassed. I mean, PlayStation themselves have been giving out PlayStation VR games with like the monthly PS Plus games for a while. It just seems silly not to have those carry forward. And also like kind of lessens the immediate value of the PlayStation VR 2.
And I want to tack onto that because I agree with everything you said. This pill would be a lot easier to swallow. And maybe I'm in the minority on this opinion wise, but this pill would be a lot easier to swallow if I didn't then watch these 2 trailers for these games for the PSVR 2 and think these are not graphically special. These are not to me. These aren't elevated beyond the experiences I've already had on the PSVR. So why are you gatekeeping in this way? I wasn't taken in by either of these. I thought Demio, I believe is how it's pronounced, I thought that looked cool. I thought it would be perfectly cool as a non-VR experience. And like, I don't know. I wasn't taken in by either of these. These definitely were not enough to get me to buy a PSVR 2. And if that's what their goal was, they missed the mark entirely. Maybe that's a little harsh, but like, I didn't see a whole lot of value in either one of them. I mean, did Galaxy's Edge, did that appeal to you guys in a particularly strong way? I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and I was kind of like, this was a very ho-hum trailer to me.
Yeah, I mean, it looked cool, but it doesn't sell me on the PSVR 2. As someone who owns the PlayStation VR original and the Meta Quest 2, neither of these sell me on the PlayStation VR 2 because I'm pretty sure, I can't remember if Demio is already out on the Meta Quest, but I feel like it is. I feel like this isn't a new game to the PlayStation VR 2, and Galaxy's Edge didn't seem like it was a step above anything. Like, there are Star Wars games on the Meta Quest 2 that I can play that are just as cool.
And even if Demio was exclusive to the PlayStation VR, there are very similar games. And I believe that there's similar tabletop games that we've covered in past episodes. So
yes, recently.
I'm really not sold on the PSVR 2 at all based on what we've seen here.
Yeah, so I just confirmed that Demio is on the Meta Quest 2. So like, these experiences didn't sell me on the PlayStation VR 2 at all. And I'm still curious, like, there were also a lot of hands-on accounts, I guess, after this. A lot of the media outlets got a chance to like actually play with one of the headsets. And it doesn't seem like it's really doing anything beyond some like eye tracking new technology that's in the headset. It doesn't seem like it's anything above and beyond what is in existing VR headsets besides being accessible to PlayStation 5 owners. You know what I mean? And I'm very curious what the price point of this is going to be, because if this comes out and it's not cheaper than the Meta Quest 2, and it requires you to have a cable on your head, and it requires you to have a PlayStation 5, and you're getting this pretty much the same experiences. Obviously, there's like Horizon, the VR experience. It's going to be exclusive to PlayStation, but like Star Wars, you can get on the Meta Quest. Demio, you can too. And so like, if they're not undercutting the price, I don't see how this has a place on my collection right now.
I thought you were going to say on your head.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was originally going to say on my shelf, and then
Not
that didn't
there
make
either.
sense, but because I don't have a shelf for VR stuff.
Let's try and take ourselves out of Bummer Town. I think with the remainder of these games, I think I want to there's one that I really want to make particular mention of because I thought the trailer was phenomenal, and it's a game that I would love to play, Pacific Drive. And this is a unique case where the graphics for this were not particularly impressive. They maybe weren't even good. I love game experiences like this. And when I say like this, what I mean is it appears to be a very quiet experience, very minimalist kind of, there's no HUD. There's not a whole lot of information for you to know. You're kind of going through an interactive story is what this looked like to me. And I was very, very into the ambiance and the vibe that this trailer had. So yeah, this one I'm definitely interested in. This is Ironwood Studios' first game. So potentially enticing debut for yours truly. But I don't know what you guys thought about that one.
I thought it looked cool. I like games like that. Like, this reminded me of, like, Firewatch in a car. I don't know if you guys played Firewatch, but, like, that's the vibes that I was getting from this.
Firewatch, I believe, one of the few recommendations that you gave me that I actually took and played it and liked it. Gone Home, very similar experience. Where it's more so a story, it's like a story simulator, which I thought was great. What Remains of Edith Finch, another example of that. So definitely into that vibe. Were there other games here that you guys wanted to discuss?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, I'll turn the floor over to you then, because I don't feel strongly about anything else on the slate here, but it sounds like you do.
So I had mentioned earlier in the episode that scary does have a place in video games, and the PlayStation exclusive quest that is being released for the Hogwarts Legacy game is that place. They showed a very spooky mission, and my goodness, I am so glad that they're picking this for the Hogwarts game because it is perfect. I don't want it at all to be cutesy Harry Potter. I want it to be its own thing. I want it to be my special mission, and I love that it's spooky. I think witches and wizards is scary, so that's one thing I wanted to mention. Another one that I wanted to make specific mention of was a game that I actually thought it was Assassin's Creed set in Japan, and that is Rise of the Ronin. This game looked exactly like that. It looked like Assassin's Creed set in Japan and looks awesome. It just looks absolutely phenomenal. It looks like it has everything that you get from the stealth attacks, the falcon view, and then you get that on top of the gorgeous aesthetic that is Japan. So I'm very excited to play this one. This is something I am 100% going to purchase. Which,
by the way, an Assassin's Creed game centered in feudal Japan is literally in development right now. It's supposed to be coming out within the next couple of years. So that is, I agree, the parallels are there, definitely. I could see the two kind of samurai games that are announced, like, kind of competing with each other in a weird way. There's definitely a lot of games in this field, in this genre right now that are trying to do Ghost of Tsushima stuff, I think. And I'm open to it. I don't know if any of them are necessarily for me. But that said, what you said about Hogwarts Legacy and this special mission, I totally agree with. And I remember thinking that when I watched this trailer, Harry Potter is a universe that by the nature of it, it's capable of such darkness. And even when we get quote unquote darkness in the movies, it's family friendly darkness, right?
It's always touched on with like funny quips from Ron. Shut up, Ron.
It can be pushed much further in that direction. And I would like to see this, PlayStation exclusive mission do that. I don't know that it will necessarily, but the trailer certainly seemed like it had a chance to. So I agree with that as well. Nerdbomber, anything else we want to mention here? Anything you wanted to make note of, or did we kind of cover the high points?
I mean, those are kind of the biggest ones. There were two other announcements. So I remember Project Eve was like a blade slasher action game that, remember, we saw trailers for before. That got renamed to Steller Blade. That looks a little bit interesting. I don't know if that would be like one of my day one buys, but I could see myself like stumbling into it when it's on sale and having a lot of fun with it.
The combat in that did look pretty, not even pretty cool. It looked really phenomenal.
Yeah, it looked like really fast-paced, action-y stuff, which is always fun. And then Synduality was a new one that looked like a mech shooter. I couldn't really get a good grasp for what was necessarily going on, like what the story beat was, but there were a lot of mechs, and it seemed like you were battling other mechs, and it was
in that one, I guess. The vibe of the trailer didn't fit what we saw in the trailer, if that makes sense. So they opened it up with this quote: advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. So you're going to be thinking that like you're in these like humanoid mech suits that are like look almost like a tech wizard, and then you're just in this blocky tank. I don't care how advanced you are. If you're in a blocky tank, I'm going to say that's tech. That's not magic. So I thought the vibe of the trailer didn't really fit the actual plot, but I mean, I could be surprised here.
But yeah, other than that, I mean, I think that kind of caps most of everything that was shown.
So again, what did we miss? What did we get wrong? At Online Warriors 1, at OW Illeagle 6, at OW Techtic, at OW Nerdbomber. Let's have a conversation. For our What Are You Up To segment this week, I'm going to swing it over to Nerdbomber first so she can let us know what she's been up to.
All right, so we've still continued playing Nobody Saves the World. I think we're getting very close to finishing the game. We have now unlocked all of the form factors, including the ultimate form factor, which Techtic was really pressing us to get, and then ended up didn't like it, and I did like it. So here we are.
It has its purpose, but it's not my favorite.
But then another thing that I wanted to touch on is that, so the other thing that I really want to touch on is we watched Vengeance, and this is the BJ Novak movie that has now finally hit streaming. It's on Peacock if you have Peacock. And this is an original kind of like dark comedy where BJ Novak is, in the very beginning of the movie, shown talking to John Mayer about how they're very flippant in dating. They don't want to really settle down with one person. They don't really want to get in the weeds with any one person. They just kind of want to date around. And while he has someone over, he gets a phone call from one of his ex-hookups, brothers, saying that she had died of an overdose, and basically kind of bullies him into coming down to Texas to attend her funeral because they're convinced that he was her boyfriend and that they were more serious than just a hookup. So he feels uncomfortable and ends up going down there. And then the brother reveals to BJ Novak that he believes that his sister was murdered. So then BJ Novak, who's kind of like struggling with, finding his voice because he's a writer, but he wants to have more of an impact, decides he's going to make a podcast out of investigating this quote unquote murder because he just thinks that her family is being stupid and doesn't want to face the reality that she actually just overdosed. And this was way more insightful than I expected. It was funny, and there were a lot of funny like haha moments, but it was also very like dark at times, and just a very introspective sort of comedy that I was very surprised by. I think Ashton Kutcher was also very surprising to me. Like, I've obviously seen him in other things and he does a really great job, but his role in this movie was probably one of the like highlight performances other than BJ Novak himself. And it was just a very good movie. I really don't want to give too much more information because I feel like you just have to go in and watch it with that little background that you kind of get out of the trailer anyway. It was good. It was really good. Techtic, I don't know if you have any thoughts on it, but I would say this is probably one of the better movies that I've watched in the last like year or two even.
Yeah, I would say it was good. It was really good.
Thanks for that. Techtic, yeah, okay.
All right. A rousing review from Techtic there. Well, Techtic, what else do you have to say? I guess we'll swing it over to you next.
In addition to that movie, this past weekend, we fully embraced the fallness that is this time of year. And we did two things. One, we started putting out our Halloween decorations. And more importantly, we started work on designing our own Halloween decorations. And we're going to make some content and share that with you guys. But we got two major things. One's going to be our candy bowl dish that is going to be this really cool pile of skulls that the candy dish is going to be on. And there's going to be some secret scary stuff hidden in that. And then the other thing is we're going to make a cool little hanging witch's cauldron with some orange lights for fire and some green lights for bubbly brains in the pot. And then lastly, while we continue to work on that, Sunday, we want apple picking. If you haven't ever gone apple picking or haven't gone apple picking yet, do it sooner rather than later. One, you get the best pick of the apples. Two, it's just a great time, especially while the weather's still like fresh and warm and not bitterly cold. And fresh pick apples always last just way longer than grocery store apples. And you can make a ton of good stuff. So go apple picking, folks. That is my
What are we talking?
PSA.
Granny Smith?
We're talking
no.
Macintosh.
Macoon.
Granny Smith is the official apple. It's the best apple. So you did it wrong. I hate to say, but at least you got apples. How do you like them apples?
Good. They're good apples. And usually when we're there, I usually eat like 4 or 5 apples until I get a stomach ache. So it's a good time.
I'll have to go apple picking. That's a really good idea, honestly. I hadn't even thought about doing it, but it is time.
We have
Definitely.
Recommendations if you're interested.
Right on. On my end, guys, Love is Blind just came out with another special of like,
I forgot.
and it's not a new season. It's like, where are they now? And I think it's 3 episodes. And look, if you watch Love is Blind, you know what you're going to get, and you get it. We've only watched 2 of the 3, but it's exactly what you think it's going to be.
Okay, everybody put your spoiler muffs on, but I have to ask you a very good question, Illeagle. In real life, the couples that got married got divorced within about a week of each other. They announced it. Do they address that in this special? You don't even necessarily have to go into detail, but do they address it?
This was filmed before they did. So
I get that, but I thought for some reason, like maybe they made them hold off on the announcement until the special was about to drop or something like that. Just the timing of the 2 seemed suspicious.
It hasn't been addressed yet. What I will say is through 2 of the 3 episodes, one of the couples, I guess I won't say who just for spoiler, it's very, very clear that they have been on the rocks since they got married. Like, there was never any, like, honeymoon period for them.
Can you text me which couple it was? Because I'm curious.
I will, yeah. We'll talk about it. But yeah, it's pretty good. You know, again, it's Love is Blind. It's that same exact kind of content, so you know exactly what you're getting. That's about it for me, honestly. I'm in a weird video game state. I messaged Nerdbomber and Techtic over the weekend saying I'm thinking about dusting off my Xbox 360. More to come on that. I'm just like, I'm having a hard time right now finding a video game that excites me.
God of War.
I'm in one of those weird funks. I
was really excited about you digging out the Xbox 360, but now I'm like so hard on the God of War train.
I'll keep you all updated. That's what I can say for the time being. But in the meantime, I believe Techtic has a quiz for us. Yes? Techtic?
He does.
T-Dog?
And the topic is Indiana Jones. So before I get into it and you say, wait, I want to say the scores, why don't you go ahead and say the scores?
Yeah, I'll say the scores. They don't do me any favors, but Techtic is at 11-8, Nerdbomber 9-9. I'm at 8-14, and Steven 2-1. Steven still in the black. Positive record. So yeah, look, obviously I have high hopes here, but we'll see what happens.
Okay, so I'm going to roll right into it with the first question, and that is, Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull was the highest grossing film. How much did it make worldwide?
Who goes first?
Y'all can figure it out.
I'll go first because you keep losing, so you can get the advantage there.
That's true. I do keep losing.
How much, like back then or in current dollars?
Year to date.
Year to date, 300 million.
Okay, it's more than that. I'm going to say 400 million. It's got to be more than that, though.
Nerdbomber takes this one. It's $317,101,119.
And we're off. It's already looking real good for your boy. I never really had a chance on that one. Fine.
All right, so the next question. When was the first Indiana Jones movie released?
Okay.
Oh, boy.
You're looking for a year, right?
Yes.
Okay. 1981.
I think, wasn't it slightly earlier? I feel like I'm going to poop the bed on this. 1970.
I'm almost positive I'm exactly right, but
Illeagle is exactly right. Raiders of the Lost Ark was released
I actually knew that
June 12th, 1981.
Yeah.
For a follow-up question.
A rare occasion which I knew the answer.
Well, maybe you're on fire now. So when was that supposed to take place? Like when was the timepiece set in?
Yeah.
God, I haven't seen this movie in so long. I can't even really put my finger on it. I want to say it was like the 1940s, so I'm going to say 1940.
Okay, you busted. I'm almost positive it's the 30s. I'm just going to say the beginning of time, just to make sure I don't bust. 0 BC.
Illeagle takes it again. You were close, Nerdbomber, but you did bust. It's 1936.
Oh, come on.
I've seen Raiders of the Lost Ark many times. I was feeling pretty confident about that one too. But okay, let's see if I can wrap this up.
Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade is the longest movie currently released. How long is it?
In minutes?
In hours and minutes.
Okay, can we just do flat minutes? Because hours and minutes is annoying.
Sure.
I mean, I'm getting +1 here. I'm like, it makes sense for me to get +1. I'm just going to say 121 minutes.
122, Bob.
So Nerdbomber takes this one. It's 127 minutes. So
I knew I was close too. That's very frustrating. I knew it was like just a hair over 2 hours because that's another one that I've seen many times. Okay.
So
Good.
we're all tied up. We have one question left. Let's see how it goes. And Illeagle's got his +1.
It's true.
So, still going strong in the franchise for over 40 years. How old is Harrison Ford?
Isn't he like 83?
Is that your guess?
Yeah.
See, this is tough. So, just to be clear, I did learn something from the last time I lost. I know that the best thing for me to do from a game perspective is +1, because the worst that happens is we both bust. So I'm going to do that and say 84, but I'm like 99% sure we both busted.
You both busted.
Yeah, he's like 79 or something.
He's 80 years
God
old.
dang. Yeah, God, see, I should. But this is last time I felt like a total dunce when I didn't do that. So, all right, so now we're doing a text-in tiebreaker.
I mean, 83 years old is very old, let alone 80. The fact that, whew. Anyway, so the next one's going to be a text in, and it is a.
Boy, that's so frustrating, man. That's just the worst. Because I feel like I should have this one. All right, give me the question.
How many Indiana Jones movies are there, including the one coming out in 2023?
My answer's in.
Okay, so the one coming out in 2023 is titled currently Indiana Jones 5. So there are 5. Illeagle busted, and Nerdbomber got it. Nail on the head.
Wow.
See, that's very frustrating because I guess Young Indiana Jones was considered a TV show because we had the VHSs for Young Indiana Jones. That's why I said more than 5. I'm not an idiot, I promise.
So did you know that the next one was called Indiana Jones 5?
I did. I thought the Young Indiana Jones stuff was movies. I guess it must have been a TV show. I'm Googling that. Not out of bitterness. Yeah, it was a TV show. Well, here we are again, folks. I snatched defeat from the jaws of victory.
I knew that you knew much more about Indiana Jones than Nerdbomber, so that last question was supposed to be a gimme. And
we just talked about D23 last week,
you
guys.
overthought it, man. You overthought it.
I overthought it, but at the same I just wanted to justify why I said more than 5 because of the Young Indiana Jones. I thought they were movies. I really did.
Kid time runs way differently than adult time. A young kid watching those probably felt like 2 hours.
Yeah, see, this is very frustrating. I'm reading off Wikipedia now, by the way. Again, not out of bitterness. I just want to make it clear that I'm not an idiot. The Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. Due to its large budget and low viewership ratings, the series was canceled in 1993. However, following the series cancellation, 4 made-for-TV movies were produced from 1994 to 1996. I'm not making this up. In 1999, the series was re-edited into 22 TV movies under the title The Adventures of Indiana Jones. So, I still think I was wrong, to be clear. I'm not saying I was right, but I'm saying that's why I thought what I thought. So, I don't know. Food for thought, I guess. I'll take the loss. What else is new? Nerdbomber moves to 10 and 9. I moved to 8 and 15. So, it's pretty much over for me, I think. How many weeks are left in the year? Can I come back?
I think there's sufficient time for you to come back if you really put your mind to it.
You can at least get into double-digit wins.
My mind is fully on it. Let me just make that as clear as I can. I'm going to go study for the next week of time. That's where I'll be if anyone needs me. In the meantime, I will turn it over to Techtic to take us out with a tech tip.
Go apple picking.
Nice, short and sweet, literally. Have a good week, everybody.